Welcome to Playing Above the Line. We're a podcast that takes a peek into the daily lives of community and business leaders. Each week, we uncover different views of the path to growth, leadership, and achieving success. I'm Dennis Sheeran.
And I'm Alan Cave. Dennis and I are both shareholders at Hartman, Blackman & Kilgore. We're a full-service accounting and business consulting firm. As CPAs, we've had the unique opportunity to work with many different leaders and decided we wanted a way to share their incredible stories that we've learned along the way. Lynn Oldshue is our guest this week. Tune in to hear Lynn share how she started the magazine, the Southern Rambler, as well as how she's done over 1,300 interviews to help others have a voice and share their stories. Dennis, it's another beautiful day in Mobile. We have another great guest. How are you?
I'm great. Looking forward to another show.
Me too.
All right. So today we have Lynn Oldshue. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Glad to be on here.
Tell us.
We're not talking anything about numbers, right? There's not
one. Well, I mean, if you want to. But,
absolutely.
Okay. Don't worry. All we know how to do is add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Okay. And we actually use computers for that. So
You're
we
out
don't
of
do
my
that.
zone already.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I grew up always wanting to be a writer. My dad was a catfish farmer and in the Delta in Yazoo City, and my family owned newspapers in Mississippi. So I always had that dream of being a writer, and I would write stories about farm animals and things we had out there, and it was always the dream, but just never something I really went after. I guess coming from a family like mine, you think, oh, I can't do this. I don't want to let them down, so I'm going to go do something else. But writing was always the dream, and started a magazine called the Southern Rambler maybe 8 or 9 years ago now. Just Michelle Stansel, she's a photographer, and I wanted to be a writer, and we're just two moms trying to figure it out. Nobody would hire me to write or anything because I had no experience. So we'll just start it ourselves. So it became this beautiful magic carpet of interviewing artists and musicians, and we got to interview Emmylou Harris and kind of people that are John Paul White, people that are kind of out of our zone, but it was like these two moms that we get to do this. And so I did a story with Vincent Lawson. We rode the bus in Mobile for months and did a story on the bus riders because got to the point of kind of wanting to do something deeper and a little more meaningful. And Vincent took pictures of the homeless, and I did a story on him, and he kind of opened my eyes and changed my life in a way of, okay, how do we become more compassionate, how these stories can come deeper and show what's going on in Mobile more. So we rode the bus for months, and here I am, this almost 6 foot tall, redheaded white woman riding the bus. I thought they will never, ever accept me. I had all the walls up. I thought this is going to fail. And immediately, every person on there took us in. And maybe it was Vincent, but they scooted over and let me sit by them. And they told me their stories of going to get chemo or dialysis or just going to the grocery store and just trying to survive. I'd never noticed all the buses. You just see the billboards on the sides. You never think of the people inside. And that changed my world of these people need a voice, and they want a voice. They want somebody to understand them. And when it was over, what next? And my husband gave me the book Humans of New York and said, you need to do this. You need to interview people every day. And so I started it, and I've done almost 1,300 interviews.
Wow.
But every day, it's magic and wonderful. And the world is a crazy place, but that is where I find God and inspiration every day.
That's neat. The story of the homeless. The story is so much different than people's beliefs. There's every one of them. You're taking the time to really show that there are reasons, there are causes, there are influences, there are effects. There are so many different circumstances that the typical passerby just doesn't consider.
Right. I'm still sweaty right now because I was interviewing one in Cathedral Square before I came over here. And I mean, it's this, they're so grateful to have somebody listen. And like he starts telling a story and just starts crying because here's somebody who cares. And all I do is sit down and listen. There's no magic, anything to it. But he talked about how his mom had been in a nursing home, or he was taking care of his mom and living with her. And then her mom went into a nursing home, and all the money went to that, and he became homeless. And he'd been sleeping in the bushes. His leg is infected with something. He fell down, and his leg is infected. And he also has ant bites all up and down his legs. And on his left hand, or his right hand, is his mom's class ring.
Wow.
Yeah. And he started crying when he started talking about his mother, because who doesn't love their mother? So it's beautiful that stories of how they got there and asking why.
Well, on your website, one of the lines I love is stories of the human connections that help us find common ground, right? So
yes.
The one thing that we all have in common, we all have a story.
Right.
Correct? And
absolutely.
so, and I think most people want to tell that story. And I think you're giving a voice to those who a lot of people don't care what their story is, right? So you've found that, I'm sure, to be true, and have made a big impact in their lives just by listening, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I thought when I started this, people are going to say, no, there's no way they're going to let this stranger just swoop out of the sky or drop down into their lives and open up. But it's like we all have that play button. If somebody would just listen and for a moment care. And it's therapy, and it's beautiful, and there's a lot of crying. Sometimes there's some praying at the end. But it's just people want to know that they matter and that somebody sees them. And I'm so grateful for it every day.
That's amazing. So let's step back just a minute and talk about, so you haven't always done this. You talk about kind of wanting to, I guess, fit the mold of what you maybe perceived your parents want you to do, and that kind of wanted you to do when you started work and that kind of thing. So what is your background other than writing? I mean, what did you do before these endeavors that you're on?
I was an event planner. I started the Sanger Theater 96, 97 when downtown was deserted. And it was the greatest job, discovered myself, felt absolutely in love with Mobile, even though nobody else loved Mobile at the time. And then my husband got a job in Birmingham, and he's a weatherman. And so we moved up there, and it broke my heart, and I always wanted to come back here. And while we're gone, all these people have brought Mobile back. And so we came back 8 years ago, and then Mobile is a different city. But I worked for the Birmingham Zoo as an event planner there, raised kids, and stayed home for a long time. And then this thing that has somehow grown into covering sex trafficking and all these other crazy things.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because so you've got the Southern Rambler, obviously, but then you write for the Lanyap, you write for AL.com, Portico, and some pretty hard-hitting, kind of heavy things. How did your career morph from writing about, sunshine and roses and rainbows to sex trafficking and homeless people and that kind of thing? Is it just part of your passion, your heart that you have for these people? How did that work?
It's evolution. I mean, I knew from the beginning I should have been an investigative journalist. I mean, I knew I just didn't do it in college because I didn't want to let my family down. So it's been great. I mean, I laugh about career. My husband keeps saying, these are all hobbies. But I don't have a hobby personality. So it's been this beautiful evolution and I'm thankful to have this. Mobile gives you a place to grow and to figure things out. And, Lanyap, I went to go to them with ideas like domestic violence series and then sex trafficking. And they're like, yeah, go do it. And then they print it. I'm very grateful to live in a city that lets you explore who you are and figure things out and goes along for the ride.
Sure. Obviously, there's no doubt your desire to write has always existed there. It's easy for you. Is that fair?
No.
Just the opposite. Okay.
No, I never felt good enough. That's why I didn't do it. And then I took Rick Bragg's writing class when we lived in Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
And just to sit around with Rick for, a semester and think, okay, and start trying it. And I would just go out and just write poetry or whatever you saw. And just there's been years and years of practice and years of thinking, man, I suck at this. And finally can start kind of saying I'm a writer. But I think it's more of I'm an interviewer and a listener, and then I just kind of weave stories together.
That's great. You get to tell you get to tell a story, and you get to write about it. That's so neat.
So what's the process like for you? Because I'm sitting here, Carrie's in the room with us, and she's always on me to write a blog for our website. And I'm like, and so I do. I've written a couple, but I find it takes me, and I'm not a writer, obviously, but I mean, I sit down and it takes me, half a day or a day to write a, 350 word blog. So what's your process look like? I mean, do you sit down at the computer and it just kind of flows and you're done, or do you have to edit? I mean, what's your...
That way of starting cold and just start from who I am and where I am and writing from the inside of me is much harder. I don't do that very well. Okay. I'm trying to do better, but that's not me.
I got you.
Mine is out there finding stories in the world and connecting them and finding how do they relate. And I mean, I'm much better out there at digging and telling somebody else's story.
So you have a naturally curious personality then?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes. I mean, I always want to know what's around the other corner, what makes people think, why they act the way they do.
There's always something beyond what you're seeing in front of you.
I have a game. I'll play at Mobile 30 minutes and I'll walk. I park at a specific place and I have my route I walk. And within 30 minutes, I'm going to have a story or something or meet somebody that's the best thing that day. I mean, it's just it was supposed to happen. And it's this great game, and it never fails.
So
it'll fail the next time.
Knock on wood, maybe not.
Just jinx yourself.
Yeah.
So you've done over 1,300 interviews.
Right.
And out of this, you've made connections with them. Do you reconnect often with some of these individuals?
Some become friends, and some are completely inspiring. Others, they're just in your life for a minute, and they will never know how much they've changed my life. Like the one that went up to Souls today, there were 2 girls that I met them. They were just standing in front of Sunset and Fairhope at the Pier this weekend, and they were students at Mississippi State. They were watching a sunset there, and they said, "We've never seen a sunset at the beach." And they said, "Let's go." And like, they're not spontaneous people. That's how they describe themselves. This was the most spontaneous thing they ever did. So they left Starkville yesterday morning at 10, saw the sunset, and they were driving back to Starkville that night. And they were giddy over the spontaneity. It's like, for me, that's it. That's why I got out of bed. That's the magic moments of life, to catch people doing something like that, the news, everything is so negative, but on the ground, it's beautiful what people are really doing. And we miss those. You don't know. If you didn't ask them what they were doing, you never know.
You're right. And I think that a lot of times we just get so involved, we keep our heads down, we're doing our thing, we're going from point A to point B, and we fail to look at what's around us and miss those opportunities to connect on a real personal, deep level with people that are strangers, but at the same time could really impact your life.
They're
and I think
absolutely amazing. I mean, and every one of them surprises me. I do the same thing. I judge. I look. I think I assume I know, and then they surprise me every time. I'm like, I should learn not to judge people.
So when you think back over your 1,300 plus, interviews and people you talked to, can you pinpoint 1 or 2 that just really either taught you some, a life lesson or something that's just really changed your life, even, or just your outlook on life or your perspective on the way that you view things?
There were 2 in the very beginning. Started this and thought, I don't know if people are going to play along. How far can I ask people questions? How far can you take it? And I was driving back from, my parents worked at Mayo to get a test done. So I was driving back home from Jacksonville. And there were 2 people along the road. They were had a sign that said, "Try to get home for Christmas." And I've never asked people about their sign. I've always been scared of that, But for some reason pulled over, and we started talking about their story. And they had been walking for 9 days, and they're trying to get to Kentucky for Christmas. And we made a deal. I don't kill you. You don't kill me. And
that's where every deal should start.
Yes. And so I took them to a Greyhound bus station and got them on the bus. But it was fascinating hearing their life and how people treated them, how some people drove by and they threw out dirty diapers at them. Some people pulled up and said, "You want money?" And they tore it up and threw it at them. And then others were generous and bought them food. So there was them. And I always now ask people about who are holding signs. And then 2 others, it was Christmas Eve in Jackson, Mississippi. The sweet little grandparents inside the motel had told me no. So I went outside, and there were 2 guys walking in front of my car. So I went up to talk to them. They had both just gotten out of prison the day before, been dropped off on the bus, and they said, "Do you want to talk to us?" It's like, yes. And again, the whole "don't kill us" each other thing. But they talked about, and for that moment, they were both, one of them had been an alcoholic and one of them had been a drug addict. But at that moment, they were both sober. And they talked about what they'd done with their lives, how they got into crime, why they'd been arrested, their whole childhoods. And for them, you could just watch something come over, and this spiritual thing coming over them. At first, they were these tough, hard guys, but the more they told their story, they realized they would help somebody else out. And it became the more they opened up, and it was this beautiful moment. And it just taught me of just giving people a chance. And who knows what happened to them after. I've always kind of wondered, did they get clean? Or, this prison system is not great for people who keep bouncing back and forth. But it's those 2, I would always tell their stories of, the walls were mine. And once I crossed those walls and people let you in, it's,
So throughout this 1,300, gosh, it just is such an incredible number. That throughout that, obviously there's a lot of themes that you've theorized and influences that are cause and effects. What are some that stick with you that seem to be the most prevalent or most common of these people's lives to be on the track that they're on at the moment that you interview them?
I'll tell you the thing that I've learned is, and I talked to these 2 people who have the Good Road that's about to be they do this around the world. And we talked about how there's villains and heroes in all of us. We're all saints and sinners. We've all, we're capable of doing great things. We're also, every single one of us, capable of doing awful things.
Absolutely.
And it just depends on how you present yourself sometimes. But we talk about that in the interviews about the struggles and the hardest things they've been through. And every single one of them has been through something that is from car wrecks to divorce to drug addictions to just struggling with who they are. I mean, everybody's got something that, like, how did you get out of bed this morning? But you did. Mm-hmm. So no matter how perfect people look on the outside, there is something that they have been through on the inside. Yeah. And so we're just, some people just, I mean, like I said, hide it better than others, but everybody.
I'm looking at your bio. I know, or have known 3 people from Yazoo City, Mississippi. Mm-hmm. The other 2 happen to have been related. Billy Stitt,
right,
and his dad,
right, of course, yeah. Manchester Academy, yeah. Oh, I do. Yeah, I know him well.
Okay, it's just weird.
And
Yazoo
it's bacon.
City.
Yeah, we're from River of Death. Yeah, that's what Yazoo City means.
Okay, mm-hmm. Yeah, bacon. Listen, we had him on, and I told him that,
right.
That's true adult bacon. It's the best thing on the face here.
So let me ask you this: y'all have done this 30-ish time.
You're interview number 37 or 8, I think, right now. So,
what have you learned about people from this? What have you? Is there something that you're like, wow?
This is where she turned the interview around.
That was good.
She
did. We knew it was coming. I'll tell you, we said this on the very first episode, which was, God, awful, by the way. That's just, anyway, thinking back about that. No, don't listen to that.
Okay.
But we thought that there would be some themes that would develop as we talk to these leaders and entrepreneurs and that kind of thing. And I think for me, the word that I keep hearing over and over again, no matter who the guest is and what their background is or what they do for a profession, is relationships. The importance of relationships in every aspect of our lives. And so, you wouldn't think that even accountants, the CPAs, I mean, when it comes down to it, we're in the relationship business. I mean, yes, we, do tax returns and deal with numbers and that kind of thing, but our clients trust us to, help them manage their business and give them advice and advise them. So it all comes down to relationships. So for me, that's been one of the big things that's kind of stuck out.
Right.
If I think of me, it's servant leadership. That's been very common just by listening to people share their stories. So many people, it's about how they care. Right. And it's about trying to serve others over anything else. And the other side of that is community. Right. So many of the individuals, regardless of what they do, always cared about the community. And the community is not just Mobile, Alabama, or Fairhope, Alabama, or Bruton, Alabama. It's the community of people. Right. And those are the themes that come out of that. And for me, it's the themes that I believe that true leaders thrive in. And so that's what I've taken out of it.
Yeah, and the episode that would aired before yours is going to air was Terrence Smith with Mobile Innovation Center, and you both obviously care about community so much, but you instigate it in different ways. I mean, he's helping improve efficiencies in government and that kind of thing, and making an impact there. But I mean, and you're doing it by telling stories of people in Mobile and around the area. So it's just it's
I'm on the ground and in the ditches. Yeah.
So but it's neat to kind of see the parallels between all of our guests.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, huge fan of his.
This whole venture for us was to learn more, and we both love the idea of leadership,
right?
And we have our beliefs on it, but these beliefs are ever changing, which I believe that's what it should be.
Right.
And so it's fun to have guests that come and talk, and it's actually fun for you to turn it around on us and ask us, because it gives us a chance to kind of talk about that.
Sure. Say out loud what you believe.
Every day is a chance to influence. Right. How what that influence means is up to you. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it indifferent? But every day is a chance to influence. And so what are you going to do? When you get the chance every morning to ask yourself that, you get the chance to ask yourself that and then go out in the world and walk around Bienville Square and engage someone that hasn't been engaged and get to hear a little of their story. And it's so neat. Side story to that, my wife and I have walked around New Orleans before and find a homeless person has a dog. We love dogs. She's probably connected 500 people to new animals. She loves to do that, and we don't foster because we fail every time we foster. But that she'll engage them in conversations about their dogs, and it's so fun to watch this person share a story.
Easy. It is that easy.
And it's so incredible to watch my wife. She's so good at that kind of thing. And so I appreciate what you're doing and done it so much, because it really is a story that all of us need to hear. Right. And all of us need to have a chance to share. And you get to give us a view of it.
And I get so scared of our society and where we are now becoming isolated. I mean, we go to work or we work from home or we wait our food in and we watch Netflix and everything's delivered right to our door. We never have to leave. So this cocoon and this island gets tighter and tighter and smaller. But then where do you meet somebody that doesn't look like you? Where do you meet somebody that doesn't think like you? And so as your world gets smaller and your cocoon gets tighter, then you lose sight of what's important to somebody else, or you're right all the time and you forget that, hey, they may be right too, and our common ground just keeps splitting apart. So for me in stories, I feel like common ground and bridges and let's bring us all back together and run into each other.
Yeah, well, it gets back to something you said about they were your own walls, and you've mentioned that a couple times.
Yeah.
So as you have done this more, do you feel that your walls are becoming less and less? I mean, is it getting easier to kind of keep those from kind of building up again?
Yeah. I mean, and especially racial ones, I kept thinking, okay, are they going to play with me? Are they going to go along? Or are they just going to think, okay, I'm not messing with you today? I've lived with these walls all my life. And like, how much of my life did I miss? How many people did I miss because I shut them out because my walls blocked me in? And now it's a game. I'll take somebody like, I'm going to, do they look like they're not going to play with me? Probably not. But then like, as soon as I walk up, their face changes. And all it takes is I've got a crazy question for you. And their face lights up and they're in. And it's like every time. I mean, maybe 50 people have told me no. And I've done this in Morocco and Cuba and the UK. People are people.
You said you've got a crazy question I got to ask.
Well, that's what I got to people. So I've got a crazy question for you.
Okay.
And that's the line. That's how it all starts.
And that's how it starts.
Yeah.
So people just need to do it, right? I mean, just get out there and put yourself out there. I mean, I think a lot of times we're afraid of rejection or whatever, but
it is, and being vulnerable, it's easier to reject them before they reject you.
So it's not often I get a chance to talk to a writer. So who do you have a favorite author or someone that you really that has made an impact on you as far as your worldview, your writing style, or somebody you like to read?
Sure. Of course, Rick Bragg, and then Eudora Welty and Willie Morris. I mean, I'm from Yazoo City, so Willie Morris and Eudora Welty lived around the corner from my grandparents. John Archibald with AL.com, what he does and how he makes you think, and his writing and the heart he has. And he's helped me a lot, and he answers questions. And but those guys are really, and it's just kind of figuring it out. Yeah.
So, do I get to ask the crazy? You always ask the crazy question at the end. That's never been my thing. So
I don't look at y'all and think crazy question.
So what
come
what
on,
have you
accountants.
What have you got for Lynn?
Come on, CPAs, bring on the crazy question.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to.
You're not going to bring the jet out of retirement.
No, I'm not going to bring the jet out of retirement. Let's see.
Or the spaceship.
I tried to write down a couple. So, all right. So let's do this. If you had a chance to go to dinner with any two people, living or deceased, in the world, history, whatever, who would that be, and why?
Eudora Welty. I just love her views of the world and where she was when she was writing. And this is a kind of cheap answer to it, but my grandparents. I would love to go back, especially now where I am, and go back and talk to my grandparents and what they did. And like they're just huge shadows and visions and all in my life. And my grandmother was amazing too. And would love to talk to them, like, how did you do it? What did you go through? And like, I just want them to say, hey, we're proud of you.
That's cool.
Nothing better than that.
And I would go back and play drums on Burnin' Love for Elvis. I heard it this morning. It's like, that's
nice.
my dream.
One of my favorite Elvis songs ever.
I want to go back and be just that one song. I want to play drums for Elvis on Burnin' Love.
I can't think of a better way to end the podcast. That's great. Yeah.
The time machine. You should. That's the time machine. You got to bring the HBK time machine out for Lynn to go back.
That's right.
Just that one moment, just one night.
Yeah, I think it broke down the last time you started using it.
I think it did. Anyway, Lynn, great time. Thank you very much. Check out www.thesouthernrambler.com to read Lynn's articles and learn more about her. Please visit www.lynnoldshoe.com.
Well, thanks for listening to our podcast today. To never miss an episode, subscribe to Playing Above the Line at iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcast. And be sure to leave us a rating. We'd love to know what you think about our show.
To contact us or to stay connected, follow us on social media at HBKCPAS on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.